thanks again for doing this.
Not a problem, brother.
Um,
Glad you reached out. Actually, I was sitting back bored for a lot of years. It's been a while. Alright.
so I usually try to start towards or start from the beginning. So
Mhm.
um, was music big in your house? Excuse me. Let me try this again. Uh,
Yeah.
was like music and art big in your house growing up? And did you play any instruments, anything like that?
No, I mean instruments. No, unless you like count like banging on a table and stuff like that, playing an instrument. But that's about it. But nah, music was always big in my house. Like my parents were product of the '60s, so I had a very like eclectic sound coming through the house at all times. It was everything from rock to jazz to shit, man. Just about everything that you could think of was coming through the house, and like everything from vinyl to tapes, CDs, everything. So I was blessed in that matter. My parents put me on to a lot of great music. I mean, everything. I mean, Jimmy, Led Zeppelin, Beatles. My pops put me on to hip hop in the '90s. So it was definitely growing up was a big influence on me getting into music. As far as art, I mean, yeah, definitely. Like I remember as far back as like being 5 years old and just sitting at my grandmother's and my grandparents' table and just drawing with my grandfather. He taught me how to draw a car with a pen, and I've never, all my art now, the illustration I do now is usually either in pen. I never use pencil or anything like that. So,
Mm.
definitely an influence on me for sure. Yeah.
And were you writing at all as a kid?
Writing, like
Uh,
what, like raps?
no, just like anything, just like stories, stuff like that.
Oh yeah, definitely, man. I mean, I mean, let me see. I'll put it this way. As a kid, I was writing like everything that was pretty much homework and based off of that stuff. But
Mm.
I wrote my first rap when I was 11 years old. So like, I mean, that's pretty much childhood. So yeah,
Mm.
so writing has been something. And I remember the day I wrote it, I was watching Real MTV Raps, and I forgot. I think it was House of Pain, Jump Around came on, and I remember I was watching it, and I was like, oh shit, like you know, these dudes are pretty dope. I was like, I don't know, it just inspired me to write a rap. And I wrote a rap, and I remember running down the street to my best friend Stout's house, who actually was my ramen partner for a long time, and just spitting like 6 bars to him at the time. At the time, I didn't know they were bars, but I remember spitting it to him, and like he was like, "Yo, this is dope," and like we just from then he was like a year older than me, so he was 12 at the time, and we just started rapping since then. So
Mm. And
yeah.
I don't know if you sort of answered this with that. I was gonna say, do you remember what hip hop you heard where you were like, oh, I'm into this?
Oh yeah, definitely. I remember in the early '90s, like Audi 5000. Those were the big cars in the neighborhood I grew up in. And I remember my pops, he got one, and he was driving it home, and he had a tape that he recorded from our local station WBLS 107.5, and it was Kid Capri's mix. And I remember EPMD, the crossover, keep the crossover was on.
Mm.
And I remember like just hearing it and seeing, because my father is definitely like he's my idol, right? Still is to this day. But I idolized him. I remember like how like infectious it was to him and how he reacted to it, to the point where like I was just like, oh wow, what is this? Yo, this is dope. But before that, when I was in, maybe I was probably like middle school, maybe. My aunt actually got me a 45 of Mary Mary by Run DMC,
Mm.
and at that time, like rap was like I knew nothing about rap at that time. I was still like everything my parents brought me up on earlier, which was mostly rock and jazz. I was into that, but I remember when she got that from me, I was like, that Mary Mary came on, and I was like, what is this? And I was bugging out. But there was that. That kind of like that stood with me for so much. And then of course like being at the like the schoolyard in the summertime. And like the older heads like playing like hip hop and stuff like that, Cool J and everything at that time. It kind of hit me then too. But yeah, once my father like started playing hip hop regularly, it kind of told me that like, all right, this is dope. Like, you know what I'm saying? And then from there, I mean, that was like when Jersey was crazy at the time. It was like Naughty was out, Queen Latifah was out. I mean, the whole Flavor Unit thing was popping off at the time, so it was just nuts. And then from there, it just went crazy, and I just fell in love with hip hop. So and that was a rap. That was a rap after that. Like no pun intended. But
And were you into politics at a young age, and also were like politics big in your family?
No, I just started really getting into the political realm probably like the last maybe like 5 or 6 years. As a kid, my parents were definitely like very progressive as far as how they raised us in politics. They didn't raise us with a religion. My father cursed Reagan every time he came home from work. I mean, like I remember my mom she used to, crack on my pops all the time because the first thing he would say when he come home was like fucking Reagan and like shit like that. So that was like the farthest thing we had to politics at that time. But I think individually, what got me into politics was just local politics. Like I noticed in the city of Newark, which born and raised, I noticed that it was a very crooked sense of politics, meaning that the people's voices weren't heard. Even to this day, the people's voices aren't heard that much, and there was just this frustration that came about me. So while I was doing hip hop, while I was doing this full time, doing hip hop full time, like I was still like I still had that sense of like this political sense to what I was doing. But at the same time, it wasn't instilled in me at the time, like where it was 100% what I was about. But no, like the last like 6 years has probably just been totally about it. And I'm not into like national politics. I'm not into like breaking news or anything like that. I'm more into local politics because I mean it's a microcosm of what's going on worldwide. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I kind of like I have this strong sense that if you change like your home, it pretty much it grows and has that ripple effect to change like a lot of other things. So that's where it comes from. But yeah, right now it gives me a great sense of purpose for what I'm doing, like as far as on an everyday basis. So it's pretty cool.
And then going back, you said you wrote your first rap when you were like 11. Is that something you continued with since, or was that just kind of like a one-off, or you were like in and out of it?
But at that age, no. From there, it was kind of like I was writing a lot after that. Once I got the encouragement from friends and like people saying like, "Oh wow, you sound dope," and me and a couple of friends, like we had the old school setup, which was like you get two radios and record from one while the instrumental plays on the other. And we were doing that, and like I remember we'd bring them into school, and everybody would like. Kids, the kids I was, growing up with would listen to him and be like, "Yo, D, I didn't know you rapped," and shit like that. I didn't even know that was you, et cetera, et cetera. And then from there, I mean, once that encouragement came, and once I got into high school, it was just every day. It didn't matter what I was doing. I could be like in science class, I was writing down raps. I just got like, I was obsessed with it. But my obsession with writing didn't really translate into recording. Like I was good at recording, but at the same time, I didn't come into my own until a lot later. Maybe like my mid-20s is where I really like found my pocket as far as like how I could rap and how I could put stuff down on recording. So it took a while. It took like a good like 10 years to actually find a comfortable place. But but writing, even to this day, like I still jot down stuff. I'll think of a line and I'll still jot it down. Where it'll go, I don't know, but it's still there. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
And excuse me. I mean, this was coming from like an Amazon review, I think. So,
Mm-hmm.
but it said like you also write like short stories and like you're into photography. Were those things you were doing also, or did they like come later?
That came later. That came like more like my college years. So like out of high school, I had like my transition into college. Of course, I went to college for illustration, but at the same time, I think I was in like my very first cycle of my creative life.
Mm.
So I was doing a lot of things. Like I was doing photography. I was trying to get into video. That never transpired into anything. But yeah, I was writing like a lot of short stories. I was blogging a lot. That was when blogs were really big. Also, I mean the illustration stuff too. I mean that's my first love. Illustration is my first love. So that'll never die out. But yeah, I mean anything creative, I was definitely getting into. I mean, dabbled in poetry for a while. I mean, poetry and rap go hand in hand, but
Mm.
I dabbled in that a little bit just to get a deeper sense of what I wanted to actually put out there. Um, but yeah. A lot of that stuff is it's always in me, and I definitely dove into that everything at the same time, trying to be a jack of all trades, master of none type thing. So yeah, it was wild though. It was wild. It was really fun actually. So,
And like whether it be like rap or storytelling, do you have
mhm.
like a certain writing process, and has that changed over the years?
Yeah, definitely. Like when I first started, it was like not writing to any beats at all. I was just writing down anything that rhymed. Um, but I think once I hit like my 20s and I was actually going into like actual studios and working with producers and, people putting money into studio sessions, I kind of took it a little more serious and actually trying to master my craft. But I've always been a student of the game. So there's a lot of people that I came up around um, that I was in a group called Forbidden Chapters, which is pretty much like a 16-man group, and like everybody, I mean, like everybody was doper than me. Like everybody was just eons ahead of what I was doing. Um, and I would just sit back and watch how everybody. I mean, this is 16 people with such a vast like repertoire. You know what I mean? Like
Mm.
they're just putting down so many things, and like their cadences, their rhyming styles, the way they put words together. I just learned from them. Like my man Sol Zales, he was he came up with the Outsiders, so like Young Z and like all those dudes. So he had a very unique style, and then like the same dude I started rhyming when I was 11, my man Stout. He was one of my favorite rappers at the time. He still is one of my favorite rappers. So he just had this particular way of saying things and putting emphasis on things to like really make you like feel what he was saying. And there was a bunch of other people that had just had very unique styles that I was just like, oh wow, this is great. So I would study them. Like I would be on songs with them, and I would study, and I would, when people listened to the record, I would see why people reacted to certain people a certain way. Um, and it was just a great learning experience because while as I was coming into my own, like I can see the influence that all these people had on me, um,
Mm.
and I always give credit to them. I remember like rhyming in front of some of the icons that I idolized, rhyming in front of them, and like people giving you props, and I'm just saying in my head like, yo, if it wasn't for such and such and such, like I wouldn't be in this position right now. So yeah, but after that, it kind of like I was just still at that time I was taking beats home and writing to them. That was pretty much the thing to do at that time because there was just so many people writing to one song that you couldn't be in the studio all day. Or like producers just giving you CDs at the time. This was before emails and all that other shit. So
Mm.
people giving you CDs or tapes actually too. And you going home and writing to stuff, but I think I found my niche when I started actually becoming more of a solo artist. Um, I would sit in the studio and write to the song with the producer. But the thing with that is that I would want to do everything from scratch. So the producer was making the track at the same time I was writing to it. So he'd have the skeleton down. I'd write the first verse, put the verse down. The producer would actually start working on, the nuance to go over the verse and everything on the beat.
Mm.
And I would bring that home, listen to it, see if I want to make any changes, and then I'd go back to the studio and just write the rest of the song that way. Actually, the first album I put out, Pretty Ugly, that was the whole process for that. It was just me writing with the producer. There was only like 3 or 4 tracks on there actually. Like we did it like the old school way, like the producer sending me a beat and I wrote to it. But I mean, even to this day, I mean, I still go into the studio, I still write. That never leaves you. But even to this day, like I can't sit at home and write to a beat. I have to be in the studio. I have to know that's real, basically. I have to know it's going to get put down and it's going to wind up somewhere. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So I definitely have a very hands-on approach to making music. And it's always been that way. So it's probably a little annoying to people, but at the same time, it's like if you really love something and if you're passionate about it. And luckily, I've been around a lot of people that have been passionate. I work with a lot of people that are as passionate as I am. So it worked out for the better.
Mm. And that group, was that during like college or high school?
That started off in college, actually, yeah. So, actually, that's a crazy story. So, I went to college with a dude called Elite, who was actually in a group called St. Joe Louis. They're a Jersey group. We were in class. We didn't even have class today, actually. We just hang out in the common area, and we play basketball sometimes in the gym. Actually, not go to class and play basketball. But I remember one day it was random. Like we were both sitting in the common area, and like there was a DJ playing. They were like, "Yo, we're about to have a rap battle." And I was like, "Oh shit, all right." So I entered the rap battle, and I wound up winning. And it was like I'd never been in a battle before in my life, and like I was going up against dudes that like when they were spitting, I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna lose this definitely. But I wound up winning. But the person I went against was the dude Elite, and after that we just started chilling all the time. He was from Rahway. I'm from Newark, which is Rahway's about I would say 20-30 minutes away. And I wasn't driving at the time, so this was like via train rides and shit. So we were chilling. We started building, and then coincidentally he was like, yo, I know all these cats from Newark. He was like, blah blah blah. And he was like, I know this dude Stout. And Stout is the dude going back to when I was 11 years old, my best friend growing up. I was like, oh shit, that's my man. And he was like, yeah, man. Yeah, he was like, yeah, man, we started this group called the Chaps. And he started naming everybody I knew. And I was like, get the fuck out of here. And like, yo, it just turned into this thing. And this group, the Chapters, like we were known to just go around and like literally jump out of, like we had this van that we drove around. It was called, and we called it the ambush van. It was like a cargo van that my boy Stout drove for work. But he would all of us would pack in the van, and we would go to New York and Fat Beats on 9th Street. You know, everybody hung out outside of there. Everybody chilled outside there. And we would literally just jump out of the van and just start giving it to people. Like, just spitting darts. Like, I'm talking about in the ranks of, like, I've seen people in my squad like Battle Guru, Inspector Deck from Wu-Tang Clan. Shit, you name it, like it happened. Like it was so crazy. Like Rocksteady. I don't know, you ever heard of Rocksteady? It's like a big hip hop festival in New York. Yeah. So it's an annual event. And back in the day, it was a lot more grimy than it is now. But yeah, even those events, like we just be in and out of cyphers, just jumping around. And that gave us notoriety around, not just in Jersey, but actually in the city too. So we started doing that, and then a lot of the folks that were in the camp started entering like other like battles and stuff like that in New York City, and they started winning. And like people were on the verge of getting record deals with my boy Stout. When I grew up with, he was on the verge of getting a record deal via Lord Finesse. I think it was Warner Brothers at the time. He was getting ready to ink a deal with them. My man Dayton, he was all over the place. He's doing Christian rap right now, but he's an amazing MC. He was just in everybody's studio at that time. My man Phil Zales, he was just all over the city. He was just beating people up through the underground ranks for a minute, just doing his thing. And then in Newark, we were just known as these scrappy kids that just went around battling everybody, and it was dope because at that time, like hip hop was, I mean, like late '90s, early 2000s, like hip hop was extremely grimy. You know what I'm saying? You couldn't
Mm.
just hop up on anybody and be whack. Like that was, that set up fights. Literal fights. like we seen people get knocked the fuck out for saying the wrong thing in the cipher. So
Yeah.
these were different times. So like yeah, like once we got into those spots and like we held our own, it felt good. Like it gave you like this ego and this ego boost and like this cockiness to say like, yo, let's take it to the next level. And from there it just, it turned into what it is. So and then after that, what you call it, we started having more people come into the group. And that's when the producer Krill and the producer Copy Cool came into the group, and they were working with this my homie Exile. It was my homie now, but at the time I just heard of him. And they were making music. They're from Elizabeth, which is a town right outside of Newark. And they were making music, and they would come to the studio, and Krill and Copy Cool, the producers, would play these dudes. Like, yo, who the fuck is that? Et cetera, et cetera. And he started vibing, and then I finally met the dude, Exile. He was doing stuff with Krill Cop. And we made a song called Rock Music, which is produced by my man Krill. Now, the backstory on Krill is that we didn't know this at the time, but Krill was actually mentored by Mr. Len of Company Flow. So Len taught Krill how to make beats. They were like neighbors, and like Len like dated his sister or something like that. Anyway, he was under Len's wing for a long time, and like the song just had this really like Company Flow-esque sound to it. And then, not to make a long story short, but just to give you some context. So after this, like we were still doing like the open mic rounds and stuff like that, and going to like the monthlies and shit like that. And one time, me and Exile we were at the same showcase one night, and Mr. Len was there actually. So me being the opportunist that I am, I was like, yo, let's do rock music. So we did rock music, and like Krill was there too, the producer of the song. So Len goes up to Krill afterwards, and he's like, yo, who are those dudes? Krill's like, yo, they just made a joint. They was like, saying that's Eggs, that's SB, Daniel Joseph. Well, I wasn't called Daniel Joseph at the time. I was called SB. He's like, yo, they did a joint today. He's like, yo. He was like, are they a group? And he was like, nah. He was like, yo, make them into a group. So this is the time. This is like when Len just started Smacks Records. So this was 2003, 2004 maybe. So, Len was, keeping in contact with us. He was inviting us to studio sessions, et cetera, et cetera. One day he was like, yo, we got enough content put together that he was like, I'm starting this label. He's like, I want you guys to be on it. By the way, we're going on tour next week. Do you want to go? So I was being in our early 20s. Well, actually, fucking Krill at the time, I think it was only like 19. He was like fresh out of high school. We were like, yeah, fuck yeah. So it's like dead of winter, and we're going on tour for 2 months. We're traveling the country, and like, it was a dream come true. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but like, I could go on and on from this, but yeah, that's pretty much the start of a very long journey, that I've been through in this hip hop thing. So it was wild.
Yeah, did you guys did Bully Mouth put out a full album or?
Actually, well, we put out an EP. Actually, the first thing that I ever heard was Rock Music, and Mr. Len did a remix to it, so we put out a 12-inch vinyl to that. And it did great. It did amazing. Sold out. It was top of CMJ charts at the time. Len had just re-released Fun Crusher Plus, I think, on his label, and like we outsold that. So we were like on top of the world. It was just like, yeah, like everybody was like trying to figure out who the fuck are these kids, doing this thing. Like, like LP was asking Len like about us and shit like that. He was he was a fan of our music. It was just such a surreal moment because we had all these people that we looked up to and like we listened to their music and their music influenced us and like we were sitting in the same room with them and doing shows with them and shit like that. Like we're going on the tour and like what I'm saying, we're doing shows with Slug and we're chilling with Murs and like yo, it's fucking bananas, bro. Like there's still sometimes like even right now like getting goosebumps and thinking of some of the moments we had like just bumping into people. But yeah, we put out an EP. It's called Back to School. um, I think we only put it out digitally. Yeah, we did like a couple. We probably did like 200 physical copies because this is when iTunes first came out.
Mm.
And Len is a very progressive thinker, and at the same time he's very frugal. So he was looking at ways to like cut costs and everything because it was an independent label, which is understood. And like he put a lot of money into our vinyls and all the other vinyls he was putting out. So we put it out. We didn't see much from it, but we were still able to do like a lot of the circuits around the area as far as doing shows and stuff like that. Still gaining notoriety. But I think our claim to, our biggest moment was actually we did a single called Boombox. This was another joint that was produced by Krill. And Josh Kalis on the Alien Workshop actually picked it up to put it in the Alien Workshop DVD.
Oh, damn.
And I remember the day that came out. Like this was when MySpace was like popping and shit like that. So I remember we had the song up on our MySpace account. It probably had like I don't know, maybe like 4,000 plays at the time. We had it up there for a couple months too, so not a lot of people were listening to it. But I remember when the DVD came out, like waking up that morning and checking the MySpace account, and it was up to like 20,000 plays in a day, and we were like, "Holy shit, this is real!" So that was a very, very dope experience. To this day, like a lot of people still hit us up about that song. It's like, and the time it came out too, it was a very monumental time. There's like so many people coming out with great music at that time. So it was, to stand out, amongst those people was pretty dope. But as far as a full length, we never put out a full length. Like it was, it was crazy because like when we started, we were still, we were very young. I was fresh out of college. Krill and Exile and Cop were still in school. So it was kind of like, it was a thing to do. It was like, yo, let's do hip hop. So it was easy to do. But once people started graduating school, they ventured into other things. Like my rhyming partner Exile, he actually, he's like a rocket scientist. He's one of those things I still to this day, he can explain it 100 times. I still don't know what he does. But like, what you call it? Yeah, the real world catches up with you. I mean, you hear this a lot throughout the hip hop world. So, real life catches up with a lot of people, whether it's, you have to deal with bills or, you have kids, et cetera, et cetera. So from there, truthfully, it was just me and Krill just started making a lot of music together. But also Copy Cool was the other producer too, in Bully Mouth. He and I were making a lot of music together too. And Exile was kind of like every now and then he would like pop in and like put a verse down and stuff like that. But from there, I did a song with my roommate at the time, who was Def Dom. He sampled that Cream. He sampled the Cream sample. I forgot the name of the song, but the other Exile and Blue actually use the same sample. But anyway, it's called Fly on Paper. So so I recorded that. I remember I only had the demo version of it. And the demo version at that time was like, you catch demo-itis and it sounds amazing to you. So I put that up on MySpace and like everybody was going nuts. They're like, yo, this shit is fucking crazy. I'm like, yo, okay, word, that's what's up. So I still had the relationship with Len. To this day, I still do. Like Len's, an amazing mentor. He told me a lot that I know about the industry. But I remember I sent it to Len, and Len was like, "Oh man, this is dope as fuck." He's like, "What are you doing with this?" And I was like, "I don't know." But prior to that, I had a single deal with Fat Beats, and I was actually on their compilation. And I got that deal from actually winning another battle from Fat Beats. So through that, I met a lot of great people too. So when I recorded the song "Fly on Paper," I was like, sending it to everybody I knew who had like some kind of extension into the industry. And one thing popped in my head, like I was just like, oh shit, like we've been on 89.9, like Stretch and Bob show, but it wasn't Stretch and Bob at the time. It's Susio Smash. I was like, damn, we've been up there so many times in the past couple of years. I was like, let me just hit up Seuss. So I hit up Seuss and I sent him a song. He's like, yo, it's just crazy. And I remember him playing it that night. And like he brought it back like 3 or 4 times. And he's like, yo, this is Daniel Joseph. Used to be SB1 from Bully Mouth, blah, blah, blah. And I remember that night, I think it was Pumpkinhead, rest in peace, and Poison Pen were on that night. And like they were talking about the song too, like, yeah, that shit's crazy. And Seuss hit me up the next day. He's like, yo, what are you doing with this song? I was like, I have no idea. I was like, yo, I have no label. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing with life right now. He's like, yo, he's like, get me 3 or 4 songs. He's like, we'll figure something out. So this is exactly around the time when I was starting to hang out with the Division East cats. So that eventually became Slang Corp. So that was like GDP, Shape, Pistol, and everybody. So yeah, I mean, yo, bro, the universe was just on everybody's side at that time. Like I was doing my underground thing in New York and just running around New York and still coming back to Jersey and doing shows with G and Pistol and everybody. Actually, I didn't meet Pistol for maybe like 2 years later than that, but it was mostly Shape and GDP actually. Doing stuff with them. And then GDP was coming out with, I forgot what album it was at that time. Was it Useless Eaters? I'm not sure. But I was coming out with my album at the same time. It was called Pretty Ugly. And G hit me up. He's like, yo, bro. He's like, I'm going on tour. He's like, you want to split the tour with me? And I've never done a solo tour before in my life. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. So, yeah, I just remember, like, yo, that was such a crazy moment because it was just like, yo, literally, that's when, like, I started chilling with Pistol a lot. And like, I remember Pistol and G put the money together, get the van for the tour. Yeah, we just hit the road for like a summer. And it was, it was fucking bananas. It was crazy. It was crazy. But yeah, that was a great time. It was a great time. But to answer your question, no, Bully Mouth never came out with a full-length album.
No, that's
yeah, that's cool.
Because I knew you had you were also on Mr. Len's for those of you just joining us, and like a few other albums.
Yes.
But
yeah.
How was well, I'll go to this since you just mentioned it. So that was like a 2-month tour with Pistol, GDP, and Space Jesus.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
That
was.
Just wondering if you wanted to talk about that a little bit, or if you had any.
Yeah, man, definitely. I remember I didn't meet Space Jesus. Well, we called him Faggy Smokes. Actually, we called him by his real name when I first met him. We were calling him Faggy Smokes at the time. But I didn't meet him until like the day before we left for tour. And I remember we went to New Brunswick where G and himself were living at. And I remember just walking into like this cigarette smoke and weed smoke filled apartment. Like Space Jesus is like working on his machine that I never saw before, which eventually became actually it's called Machine, I think. And he's working on this new type of music that I never heard before, which is dubstep, And I remember looking, I'm like, it's like long hair, like 6'5" dude, like what the fuck does he know about hip hop? But at the same time, it's like one of those things like don't judge a book by cover, like seriously, like Space Jesus, he's one of the coolest dudes I've ever met. He's one of the most intellectual fellas I've ever met. One of the most, kind-hearted people I've ever met. So we went on tour. Let's call it Space Jesus. He was DJing for all of our sets for 2 months. GDP was headlining every night. Me and Pistol would, we would go in between, like who would open up and stuff like that. Unless we were in a town where somebody else was opening up or headlining that day. But that was a very unique experience. One, it was a unique experience for me because I'd never been on tour with somebody I really didn't know. Like when I was going on tour with Len and everybody, like that was, these were people that were, pretty much they're like friends, they're like brothers of mine. So we had that relationship where like everything was pretty much set in stone. We know how to react to each other and everything like that. Going on tour with G, Pistol, and Space Users was different. They all had a very different lifestyle than I did. Like, like I smoke cigarettes, I drink, I smoke a little bit of weed. But like this was just like it was next level. It was like everything that that these guys like talk about and rap about, like I've witnessed. You know what I mean? It's like everything from like from the doing bumps off the switchblades or being in the back of the van and like what I'm saying, doing lines and shit with $100 bills and fucking smoking heroin and fucking bags of weed the size of a pillowcase type shit. It was just nuts. But I would never take that back. Like I learned a lot from those guys. Like those are, especially like GDP is he's one of the most hardworking people that I've ever met. He influenced me a lot about how, like when I came back from that tour, I learned a lot from him. I mean, he's 5 years younger than me, but he was so mature in the way he goes about his business, as far as like, getting in contact with people and networking and how he interacts with people and like his very optimistic view with a small percentage of jadedness attached to it. That's just very entertaining at the same time. But G just has a very, very, very great way. It's redundant, but he has a very professional way about he goes about himself. But at the same time, he doesn't come off as taking himself too serious. So it's very easy to be influenced by him. And at the same time, he's an amazing rapper. He's one of the greatest freestylers I've ever heard in my life. Like, as far as like what he can say on the drop of a dime type shit. Pistol is me and Pistol. I think we connected like right off the bat. Like Pistol is the same age as I am, so we had that in common. But Pistol to me, Pistol is a genius to me. Like I've never seen somebody that can organize so many people to do so many great things. Just like you think about the whole Slang Corp thing and how like he put that together with C minus and like getting people together that were kind of disorganized outside of what they were doing and like getting them all together and just putting like really great music together and very influential music. Like some of the shows I would do with these guys and like the following that they had was just, tremendous. And the way Pistol carries himself, and he's just very, he's very modest, but at the same time, he's just, he has this mystique about him that just tells you like this dude is confident as fuck. So he definitely has an aura about him, and him too. He just he makes some amazing music, and like his style, seriously, like as simple as his style is, there's so much behind it. There's just so much, for lack of a better word, there's just so much swagger behind it. Like from the beats that he chooses to like the swing on his beats to the way his cadence as well, and like the way he just flows on a beat, which is so simple, but he just says the most arrogant shit that you're just like, yo, this dude's fucking bananas. And I think what was it? The first one I heard from him was, I think it's called Network. Yeah, and it's what's it called? I'm like the sunglasses on my sweatshirt. Yeah, he's like holding scotch glasses like an expert. And I was just like, yo, who the fuck says that? You know what I'm saying? Like he's another dude. Like he talk, he walks the talk. He talks, he he puts on record everything that he's lived through. Like this dude, he really has like, transported like $1 million fucking paintings all across New York, and like all his stories about Miami and shit like that. He'll back up like by asking somebody like tell him this story. But that tour was amazing. It was. I mean, we had its ups and downs, and like there was a point. It was a very frustrating point where like the van broke down for like what you call it, for like a week or something. We were stuck in like Petersburg, fucking Virginia, which is the worst place in the fucking world. And I remember we just stayed in this fucking shitty ass hotel, and it was just like, it was like the only thing you could do is walk down the highway to go to a Wawa. And I just remember Pistol was just like, he was just so mature about the whole thing. He was like, yo, I'm gonna stay behind with the van and blah blah blah. And G, like, I remember GDP renting a car. We went to go do a show down in Chattanooga. I think it was Chattanooga. No, maybe it was Charlotte, actually. Charlotte, North Carolina, yeah. We went to go do a show in Charlotte, North Carolina. I remember going back. I don't know if we went back to Virginia or Pistol met us somewhere. I forget. But anyway, that was just a stretch of the tour where it just felt like everything was going wrong. And mind you, this was like 2 weeks into it. So we still had the rest of the South to do. We still had the Midwest to do. We still had the West Coast to do. But yeah, it definitely gets testy. It got testy like during like halfway through. Like you're a month into it, and you're just like, oh fuck, like what the fuck is going on? What's going on? Yeah, that actually made the relationship between me and G like sour for a little bit. Like it wasn't like, there's no, like at least me towards him, like I had no hate towards him or anything, but it was very tense moments, where it was kind of like, like I kind of like gave up on the whole thing. So yeah, our relationship wasn't very good after that. Yeah, I mean, that experience was crazy. I mean, we've done shows after that. I remember the Slain Corp reunion show we did in Jersey, in this sweaty ass basement called the Meat Locker, and it was just like 100. Yeah, it was just like 100 kids down there. And it was like 200 degrees in there, so it was just like the walls were literally sweating. But it was one of the most amazing shows that I've ever done in my life. But yeah. I can't do anything but give props to G. Like, G put me on to a lot of things. You know what I'm saying? Like, I remember we opened up for Wu-Tang, and, like,
Oh, damn.
Yeah, you can't ask for more than that. Like, G was like, yo, man, I've opened up for Wu-Tang. You want to do the show with me? That's the thing about G, yo. He's just mad nonchalant about shit. He's like, yo, bro, I'm doing the show with Wu-Tang. Yo, you want to come on stage with me? And I'm like, all right, word. But, yeah, man, he put me on to that shit. And then Space Jesus, I mean, like, it's crazy, dude, because when we were on tour, it kind of like he was so passionate about like this new style of music that none of us really heard of before. And I remember him saying like, yo, man, dubstep is the next wave, and like him telling us about like groups like Spangle and like all these other groups and like all these festivals that I'd never heard of before, and like, dude is a fucking rock star right now. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's like, yo, it's fucking nuts. So, but he's still like I said, he's extremely like humble. Like he actually just sent me a message the other day just to say what's up, and he sent me a beat and shit like that to do something with him. But yeah, like, yo, we definitely all connected on a different level, through that tour that kind of like made or broke, some of us. So, but you saw the magic during it. I remember one of the best shows we had on that tour was like, I think we were in New Mexico, I think, yeah. And the venue spot we were supposed to rock at and work out, and the promoter, which was just a kid who was just wanted, GDP to come out and do a show in his town. He's like, yo, man, he's like, I got a generator. Let's go up to the mountains and let's do a show there. And I remember we was like, yo, this shit's fucking rad. Hell yeah, shit. Bro, like I tell you that's one of the illest shows I've ever done in my life. It was just like, there's like probably like 100 people up in this mountain. Like, yo, we got music bumping. Like, we're drunk, we're high as fuck. Like, Space Jesus has let me like use his machine to play dubstep. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, but people are dancing, so I'm like, yo, I'm doing my thing. Um, but yeah, I just remember like all of us like, yo, in sleeping bags, like 6 o'clock in the morning when the sun is coming up, like falling asleep on top of this mountain. It's like, yo, amazing feeling. Um, yeah, bro, yo, tons in there. Yo, it was shit like that, and like shows we did, like people didn't pay us in money, they just paid us in like, fucking huge bags of weed and shit like that. I smoked hash for the first time on that tour. Definitely saw some wild shit, put it that way. Yeah, crazy shit. I mean, we almost got into tons of fights. I remember we were in Milwaukee, and I remember there were these biker dudes, extremely racist guys. Like, they came. We were doing a house party actually. And so these biker dudes, they were racist. Throwing the N word around and just like being extremely disrespectful to a lot of people. And I remember Space Jesus almost got into a fight with one of them. And I remember just like all these dudes just ready to just fuck us up. And like we were down to throw down, but it just came to a point where we're like, yo, all right, let's just get out of here before we're in Milwaukee, first of all. Like yeah, Milwaukee was one of those places. At that time, like it's gentrified now, but like at that time, it was like one of those places. Like, all right, if we get fucked up here, like we're pretty much stuck here for the rest of our lives, and we probably won't be alive in that sense. So, so you're like, yo, let's get the fuck out of here. So that was real. But there was a lot of times like that, So we did a lot of things, and then there were shows like where we bumped to like I think we were in New Orleans, I think, and like Frank TMFSC Shape and I forgot who else. We were on tour at the same time, and they like met us down there and shit like that. So that was pretty cool. So yeah, but it was a wonderful experience. But I mean, like after that, it was just like we would do spot shows here and there, and like I started going on tour. I was promoting my album, so I was going on tour all over the place too. And yeah, so I mean, we all still keep in touch. You know what I'm saying? I'm still big fans of all those guys. Like G, I just saw G over the. Actually, last spring, I think he was in New York, so I tuned in with him randomly. I was at Max Fish, which is like a old school dive bar in Manhattan. Yeah, it's like what it was a crazy night because it was like he was there, like LP was there, like all these fucking people there that night, and it's crazy because I'm playing pool and I'm drunk as fuck, and I just hear this person belligerent just fucking screaming in the background. I turn around, and it's like this 6'5" white guy. I'm like, GDP? Oh, shit. And like, yeah, we're just kicking it that night. So that was the last time I saw him. I mean, I haven't seen Pistol in probably like, I want to say it's like 7 years. Like, he's up north right now. So, but I definitely miss that dude, man. Like, he's got tons of wisdom. Like I say, he's just intellectual as fuck. Like, conversations with him are like very intense. He has a very unique perspective on life, and definitely a dope person. So. But yeah, it's cool. Good shit.
Yeah, I believe Pistol was saying like he met you through G, and then actually I believe he said it was the first day you recorded Orange Water and State of Shock.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, I remember that day. I remember G hit me up. He's like, "Yo, you gotta meet my man Pete." I think Pete was, I want to say he was living with C- at the time. I'm not sure. Or maybe they were like friends or something like that. I think that's how they knew each other. He's like, yo, man, you got to meet my man Pete, whatever. And I remember walking into Pete's house, and I remember he had like a Van Exel jersey on his wall. Van Exel, the old point guard, shooting guard for the Lakers and tons of other teams. And I was like, oh shit, man, Exo? He's like, yeah, and he's like, I love that dude, blah, blah, blah. And like, he just had this like very, very, very interesting take on sports. And like, he just knew his sports so well. And like, I'm a sports fanatic myself. So, yeah, man, we just had these like really great conversations on that. And then like, he played me some of his music. I remember spitting for him. And he was like, yo, man, you should make a song with TMFSC. I was like, oh, we have a song together, et cetera, et cetera. But, yeah, I think we rolled one up, and then I think we did two of those songs that night. We did Orange Water and State of Shock that night, yes. And then State of Shock went on, I think it was like a Division East mixtape or something like that. yeah, we were just doing tons of shit after that. After that, it was pretty much a wrap. Like, it was kind of like, yo, everybody was hitting each other up like every other week. Like, yo, you guys recording? Let's do this. Let's do that. Yeah, and like, yeah, Pistol, definitely a big fan of his. Like, yeah, definitely.
Um,
Although I haven't, did he just put out a new? I don't know. Did he put that new album out or not? I don't know.
I
I was
think
trying to look for it.
I think just the a single has come out so
Yeah,
far
he put the thing like, yeah, because I
because
heard that. That's just crazy.
he had trouble. I think his like machine crashed.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Damn, that sucks. Yeah, I gotta hit him up, man. He's definitely somebody I gotta reach out to. Cause he sent me, actually, he sent me something for a project too. That I was supposed to get on, but I haven't heard from him since. It was a couple months ago.
Mm.
But I heard the joint that he did with Space Jesus. That Space Jesus premiered at that festival. That shit sounded fucking crazy. So, but yeah, that's how I met him. And the rest is, what it is today. So
With the with the touring, and I imagine like making music, like money's coming out of your pocket and shit like that. Was your family supportive?
yeah, I mean, well, I'll put it this way. Like my father's a creative. And he's creative, he's an athlete as well. So he knows what it is to like dream big, right? You know, so my father was always on top of me as far as like being in the studio, making sure I go to the studio, making sure I'm keeping up with it. He was very, very encouraging. Like he just nonstop. He was just always on me. My mother, on the other hand, like she was kind of like this. I mean, this was when I was younger. This was when I was still in college and stuff.
Mm.
Yeah, my mother was very, very much like, get your education, make sure you have something to fall back on, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. But even with her, like, the support was there, but it wasn't as much as my pops. Like, my pops was like, yo, get yours, you know what I mean? So, but like I said, like, my pops he put me onto hip hop and shit like that. So, but yeah, they were always supportive. They were, I remember the first time I was on the radio, I gave them a shout out. This was like college radio, so it was like 3:00 in the morning. And they were, what I'm saying? They're listening. So I'm like, all right, like, they must believe in me and shit like that. My brother was always very supportive, He's my older brother too. And he's very rigid, He did everything the right way. He went to a very good high school. He went to a private college up in New Hampshire, graduated, got his career going, he's doing his thing, but he was always like, on top of me as far as like doing that stuff. So, polar opposites when it comes to, the way we live our lifestyle, but he was always there for me. Actually the girl I was dating at the time, well, I'm still like really good friends with she was very supportive of it at the time. Like when I was going on tour, she was kind of like, oh shit, like, are you gonna be able to support yourself, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But it was, I mean, at the same time, I was very fortunate enough to, have people backing me. As far as like when I went on tour, there was always like somebody put money aside for me to like be able to do things. Like I had somebody that put money up for merch. And a lot of these tours, like we weren't making money per se. Like we were making money, but it wasn't profit. It was like going into gas or like, food or like some shit like that. And then when the van broke down, it pretty much put us like, we were in the red, like as soon as we got on tour, basically. But after that, when like other tours and stuff like that, when I was, when my album first finally came out, and I was doing shows, like, I was able to make money. But at the same time, like this is independent hip hop, and you're not making, you're not making millions of dollars. You're like barely making thousands of dollars. You know what I mean? If you're lucky. I mean, there's been shows where like I'm opening up for like, I remember opening up for Mr. Lift one night, and I walked away with like $25, and I was like, damn, Jesus, There's been times where like, I'll be on the road for like maybe like I'll do like a week-long tour. I'll go like the Northeast or something like that. And after you get paid from the shows and like you pay everybody else, you pay your DJ and all that stuff, and like, you come home with like $200, and you're like, that's not sustainable. So.
Yeah.
But then again, like you have some shows where it's like a payday, and you're like, oh shit, I can eat for a while. You know what I mean? So, But then again, and then I was on an independent label, so it wasn't like, you weren't seeing anything from your sales. You're basically like, yeah, I mean, with any label, all labels are assholes. So it basically is just recouping money, the money they put out from you. Um, so yeah, you don't make a lot. So that's the only thing you really have as far as like value is the support that you have, if that makes any sense. Like, you know what I'm
Mm.
saying? Like, as long as you have something to come back to and people telling you like, yo, keep pursuing this, I think that's what drives you to keep going. But I think once that runs out, along with the money, that's like, that's when you're like, all right, let me either take a step back and like reassess what I have to do, or really say to yourself, like, is it worth it? And like I kind of got to the point where it was like after my first album, which was like, it was critically acclaimed. Like like I said, I was in a room with like folks that I never thought I'd be in a room with, like shaking
Mm.
hands with people and like, people giving me props and shit like that. And I don't know, I got jaded very fast because at the same time when you reach a certain height, you know, that you're people are looking at you to be more than what you are. Uh Meaning like labels are starting to talk to you about branding yourself. Um, people that never really talked to are now like, hitting up your inboxes and
Mm.
their Gmails and like texting you like, yo, let's do a drink together. Which could be a very overwhelming experience. Um and like me personally, like I'm a very quiet dude. I stay to myself. You know what I'm saying? I try to be, I try to practice humility. But I'm a creative, so there's a lot of ego attached to me. But um, yeah, so a lot of that stuff started getting to me, and I started becoming very anxious about what I was putting out. And so after my first album, I kind of cut ties with the label I was on, and I signed to a now defunct record label, whose name I'm not gonna say because I don't want to play anybody's business out there, because it kind
Mm.
of went down the drain fast. But excuse me. Um, yeah, and I was, I was working with the same producers. We had our own studio. It was basically 24 hours. We were there. Like, these producers were, the producers I work with are my favorite producers out of anybody. You know what I'm saying? Whether industry or not, like, these are my favorite producers. And like, I remember we were pumping out so many songs as far as like putting songs together, or these skeletons, or like drafts of songs, and like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of songs, and like this label just pretty much like fell apart.
Damn.
Um, yeah, and I still have the masters to a lot of that stuff, but I just remember like saying to myself like, yo, because in 2009 when I was putting out music, it was extremely easy to put out music. I had a great network where I could just email somebody at like one of the top sites, and they'll post it like within like 5 minutes. As that market got saturated, when Complex took over a lot of those blogs, like it kind of like fucked up the whole blog game.
Mm.
Like, you had so many people, like once you started seeing like different names on the sites, like as far as like who was moderating the site and shit like that, I was like, oh, it's just about to change.
Mm.
And then a lot of people started doing like the pay to play shit. People started charging to do write ups. You know what I mean? And like, I'm sitting back and I'm like, yo, Tim and Mayo gave me a write up in double XL. It's like, yo, like, I'm not paying some dude at, XYZ.com to write a fucking bullshit review on something. So it's like, it just got to a point where it's like, yo, people learn how to finesse the next level of the game. Like, people are finessing people through through labels. Now since people are starting to put music out through the blogs and websites, like, people learn how to finesse people through that, meaning taking money from them and shit like that.
Mm.
So like, I was jaded from that experience too, and I started sitting back. And then my homeboy Nico, he's another rapper from New York. Like, he had a very strong following at the time. Like, he was doing stuff with Wiz and like Wiz Khalifa and like all these other people. And like, he would hit me up all the time. He's like, yo, man, like, just put out an album, et cetera, et cetera. And we talk. about setting something up, but that never transpired into anything. Um, I have other people too. Like my old labels will hit me up like, "Yo, just put out an album. Like, I got you." But then I'm thinking about it, I'm like, "Yo, do I have the time right now? Like, I'm kind of in my own right now. Do I have the time to like go on tour now? Like, I'm older. Like, I'm in my mid-30s now, so it's like, do I have the time to like go on tour? I'm doing all these other things. Um, so yeah, a lot of things just, I put myself in a position where it's kind of like I, kind of walked away from the music thing. But the thing is, like, my life still revolves around Newark. Like, I still do a lot of like events. Like we started this thing called the Freak Show, which is a producer showcase. And it's still with the people I started doing music with in the first place, which is Krill, the guy who produced the first song that we put out on Lens label. So he and I are like, I mean, we're like, him and I are like, we're like brothers basically. So yeah, we venture off into a lot of things together. So we started this thing called the Freak Show, which is basically a collective of producers in the region, and we throw shows like maybe quarterly or something like that. And like, we have like 200, 300 people will show up just to hear people play like 5 hours of music, and we have like this light show going on, and it's like it's an experience. So I still have those creative outlets, right? Another thing is like I said, like I went to school for illustration. Like I've been illustrating since I was 5 years old, so I still have that. So I'm doing art shows now, which is something I've been trying to creep into the art world since I got out of college. And like I have, my mom was right. Like I have something to fall back on. So like I'm diving into that. You know what I mean? But musically, like I'm always recording. Like that never stops. Like I don't know anybody that's ever rapped or ever like put anything down like on a record and like just quits and is like, yo, I'm never doing this again. Like that's impossible. Like it's never gonna happen. But yeah, like I literally have like hundreds of songs like on a hard drive that are just like sitting there.
Damn.
But going back to that, like yeah, it was weird because one of the producers I was working with at the time, he was kind of sick of doing like the whole like I guess quote unquote like underground thing. So he was kind of venturing off into like doing again publishing rights on labels and shit like that. So his style of production was changing. And he's such an amazing producer. So it was like, I don't want to lose touch with him. So you know what I'm saying? So I started making music that wasn't me. You know what I mean? Like the content was there, but like the sound, the aesthetic of the sound wasn't there. It just sounded like extremely like, it sounded like, like now music, like of the time. Meaning like if it was 2011, whatever the sound at 2011, it sounded like that. So whenever it was actually going to come out, it would have been dated already. Whereas, you know what I'm saying? Whereas when we were doing Bully Mouth stuff, like some of that music still resonates to this day. You know what I'm saying? There's people like I said, there's people that hit me up like at least like twice a month that heard one of the songs we did back then. Like, yo, I never heard this shit before. This shit's crazy. So, and like Len, Mr. Len used to always tell us, he's like, yo, you guys make very like, you make, songs that are gonna last, like longevity. They're gonna last for a very long time. And like when I was making music, a couple of years ago, like when we were making all these songs, I just felt like boxed in. I felt like I wasn't being as creative as I know I could be. So I kind of got out of that situation. Then again, Krill, the producer, we kind of got back into the studio and we put out a album called The Light Show. So that was 2015, I think. So that might have been like the very last project that I actually put out. And that was with me, him, and my man Saya. And Saya is the only person that was actually on my solo debut, Pretty Ugly. So he's like one of my favorite writers too. So yeah, we make tons of music together as well. But that was the last like thing I put out. But yeah, like I mean, as far as music goes now, it's extremely hard to put out music unless you have a financial backing. Marketing right now is like the best thing. Like if you have a marketing plan and like you have people that could plug you into, existing brands out there. So not like brands like, like fucking Coca-Cola and Pepsi, but like, lifestyle brands, like as far as like clothing brands and shit like that. I'd say pretty much like you can pretty much go wherever you want. But that's the beautiful thing about putting out music is that you always have to find a creative outlet, to put music out there where nobody else. You have to be kind of like the pioneer of putting the music out a certain way if you want to like actually stand out nowadays, which is great because that brings a whole new creativity to actually putting out music. So if you're blessed with infinite amount of creativity, actually, you'll excel at that. So. I probably went on the tangent. I don't even know what we were talking about.
no, not at all. Yeah, so I had somebody send me some questions, and
yeah,
they were wondering if you could touch on the white intrusion on New York, its similarity to what's going on in hip hop, and if Slang Corp was not guilty of it as well.
Oh,
that's from
yeah, well,
Pistol.
So the white intrusion on New York.
I'm sorry, Newark.
On Newark. Well, I mean, this goes along with any major post-industrial city throughout the nation right now. Actually, globally, we're having this, this epidemic called gentrification. I mean, like Newark isn't, Newark's one of the last cities in the country that's actually being gentrified right now. So yeah, you're gonna have a lot of white faces in, black and brown places. But as far as when it comes to hip hop, I mean, white people have been rapping for a very long time. I mean, when I was a kid, Vanilla Ice was, he was top 40. You know what I mean? Even though he didn't write his own shit and everything. But I mean, as far as like, besides like corny people, I mean, you look at some of the pioneers of like one of the greatest sounds that I've ever heard in hip hop. You look at Company Flow, look at LP. LP is one of my favorite producers of all time. And you know what I'm saying? He's a white dude from Brooklyn. You look at Eminem. I mean, a lot of people give Eminem shit, but dude's one of the greatest rappers of all time, like hands down. As far as Slang Corp goes, like, we're from Jersey. Like, we're from North Jersey. This is one of the most diverse places, although it's segregated as far as, like, economics go, and social status. But, like, it's a melting pot where a lot of different shades come together. And, like, if a white kid from, from the suburbs outside of Newark falls in love with hip-hop, as long as he's not spewing out the N-word and, like, being disrespectful to the culture, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And when it comes to hip-hop, I think one thing I love about most of the white people that I know that do hip-hop is that they don't appropriate the culture in a way where they say, like, we're pioneers of this. Most of the white people that I know that make hip-hop, they give credit to the folks that came before them. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of these people learned from, some of the same brothers that I came up listening to. You know what I'm saying? So I think once a white person in hip hop walks around, like, you know what I'm saying, with their dick swinging like shit went well, quote the God Ghost, like, that's when I think that's when you have to, like, really, like, get in somebody's face and, like, like, you're appropriating the culture, like, chill the fuck out, like, step off. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, as far as, like, white people in Newark, I mean, us black and brown people are still the majority, so like, it's still our city right now, so I'm not mad at it. But and I mean, not to get into, like, what you call it, social justice themed talk right now, but I mean, the thing about Newark right now, and, like, the beautiful thing about the gentrification, I wouldn't say the beautiful thing about gentrification, the different thing about gentrification in Newark right now is actually the gentry are actually, well-off people of color, which is, it's good to see. I mean, But there is times when you see a white person downtown walking the poodle that's kind of like, yo, what the fuck's going on? You know what I mean? So, but actually, that's a great question, though. That's a great question, though. So,
And going off of that, I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit about housing justice and the Ironbound Community Corporation.
yeah. So I work with the organization called Ironbound Community Corporation. They've been around for probably, I want to say, the last like 50 years. So they started off education based, and then they moved into like a more environmental justice themed sector of organizing. I actually started my education off there. I went there in preschool and kindergarten. So it was like kind of like a Montessori-esque type school. So I was like in the same classroom. My brother's 2 years older than me, but I was in the same classroom. Mm. And once we got into like the public school system, we were like very far advanced, you know, as far as the other kids in the system. So yeah, they've been around. Like the social justice lens has always been a part of what they're doing. So I've been working with them for the past, let's say 4 years. And all started, opportunity came up to actually organize in the old neighborhood I grew up in. I grew up in the Ironbound section of Newark, which is, you know, some consider it like the I guess the nicest part of Newark. Mm. But I grew up in a part of Ironbound that's, you know, considered one of the worst parts of Newark. so it was a weird little like slither of the Ironbound that you know, I grew up in a place that, like, you know, there was 3 sets of public housing within like a 4-block radius. So there was like, you know, a high concentration of poverty. Mm. You know, my parents both grew up in very poor households. You know, being biracial, you know what I'm saying? Like my father's black, my mother's white. So there was a lot of, you know, there's a lot of systemic injustices. Like being that my mother's a woman, you know, she goes through her injustices. My father's a black man. We all know what black men go through in this country. So I had a very unique upbringing, you know. So the opportunity arose to actually work in the old neighborhood. And I was like, you know what? Like, I'm not, you know, I'm making music and stuff like that. But I was like, yo, this is actually a great opportunity. It's like, I get to work outside. You know, it's very flexible. You know what I'm saying? I get to, and I'm very familiar with what I'm doing. Organizing is basically just, you know, engaging the community and seeing what's needed, and, you know, and helping people to empower themselves. And it worked out because, I mean, I know what it's like to be, you know, marginalized and, you know, disenfranchised. And, you know, I started working in that neighborhood, and about 2 years into it, there was a fire on our main street, which is called Ferry Street in Ironbound. And it was like, you know, this old, beautiful building caught on fire. There's 3 buildings, actually. There's about, I'll say about 40 units, meaning 40 apartments. They were all rent controlled. So it burnt down and was, you know, pretty much, you know, collapsed. You know, they fixed it up. And when they rebuilt, it was only about 10 apartments and, you know, 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms. And the rent was like $1,500 for a 1 bedroom. You know, mind you, this is a neighborhood where 1 bedrooms, you know, 2 years ago, you could still get a 1 bedroom for like $800, $900. Mm. So I started thinking to myself, I'm like, yo, is Newark, you know, getting gentrified? Like, is this shit happening to us? Cause you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, like we're right across the river from New York. So like you go to New York and like, you know, you go to Brooklyn, you go to, you know, Manhattan, you go to, you know, as far up as Harlem. And like you see the changes. Like Brooklyn, forget about it. You can't even, you know what I'm saying? You can't even buy a fucking cup of coffee for less than, you know, $4 there. So it's crazy.
Yeah,
Philly's
really like that right now.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. Like I noticed that. Like I love Philadelphia. Like Philly is one of those major cities that just reminds me of Newark so much. Mm. Like there's like I mean, of course, it's a lot bigger than Newark, but it's just like this very like blue collar feel to it. But my point is, I remember going there a couple of months ago because I always go there to check out the murals and stuff. I go on the mural tours and look at the murals and shit. But I remember going to certain neighborhoods that I used to go to, and I was like, "What the fuck is going on?" I remember passing by, and there was like it was like a cat cafe or some shit like that. It was, it was like it was just like yeah, it was off of South Street, but it was like there was nobody in there. The lights were on, and it was just like 10 cats like chilling on couches and shit. And I was like, what the fuck is this? And I started like, I was doing my research and I started looking at rent prices in that area.
Mm.
And it was like, yeah, it was up there. It was like, $2,000 for a 1 bedroom and shit like that. And I was like, oh, fuck, they got Philly too. So it was like, naturally, like I said before, like most post-industrial cities are going through the same thing right now. So what you call it? Yeah. So like a lot of development started happening downtown Newark. I actually live in one of the new developments downtown. Um, so what you see is like downtown after the 67 riots in Newark, like pretty much downtown Newark was, was burned to the ground and shit like that. So like, and then we had white flight, which was actually happening before the riots, but the banks were redlining, aka not giving bank loans to people of color and giving them the same opportunity they were giving the white people. So, a lot of our Jewish population that actually lived, west of downtown started moving out. So that affected a lot of the businesses downtown, like Macy's and Bamberger's left. So downtown was blighted. Downtown looked like Detroit, like downtown Detroit, where we had like, boarded up high rises and shit like that. So they started rebuilding downtown, blah, blah, blah. Naturally, it has the ripple effect where it starts moving into the neighborhoods. And Ironbound is actually the train station actually runs through Ironbound. Like the train station is actually in Ironbound. And it's the third busiest train station or transportation hub in the country.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, because it's 18 minutes to Manhattan. Newark is one of those cities like you can literally get anywhere in the world from here. Like the airport is right here. Trains, there's buses that go all throughout the country here, and seaports and shit like that. But our biggest thing is our access into Manhattan. So, meaning we have access to jobs, high-paying jobs. So, of course, developers naturally, they went from Hoboken, which is a very small city right outside of Manhattan, that's in Jersey. Then along Hoboken is Jersey City. After Jersey City is Harrison, which is another small town in between Jersey City and Newark. And eventually and naturally, it moved into Newark. And Newark, the land in Newark is so cheap. I think it's like $15 per square foot compared to like Brooklyn, where it's like $35 or $40 a square foot. So developers were like, oh shit, we could get land for cheap, we could build for cheap, and we could, we could rent with speculation, meaning like there's no real market here, so we could charge whatever the fuck we want and people will pay for it, just because they have access into Manhattan. So, yeah, that started happening. So a couple of folks, myself and a couple of other colleagues, we went to the head honchos at the organization. We were like, look, like gentrification is happening right now in Newark. And like they were like, nah, I think we're years away from that. So we're like, all right, how do we figure this out? So we started doing research on rentals in the Ironbound neighborhood. And I think everything changed, and I started like the housing justice started becoming a thing when we saw like a studio apartment for like $1,800, and we were like, nah, get the fuck out of here. Because Ironbound, I don't know if you know a lot about Ironbound, if you know anything about Ironbound at all, but it's a historically immigrant community. I mean, every city has one of those, right? I don't know what part of Philly is like that, but this is a historically immigrant. Like first it was like Germans, then it was Polish, then it was Italians, and then it was Portuguese. Portuguese was probably the last big wave to come in and actually invest into the neighborhood. And then now it's a lot of like South Americans and Central Americans. And we all know, immigrants and people that come here looking for opportunity, don't have the most money. We literally have people, like families, living with families in one-bedroom apartments. I remember the old apartment I lived in Ironbound, like we had two families living in a one-bedroom apartment upstairs, and it was, two adults, and there was like 5 children living up there. Which is like, it's, God forbid something horrible happens, like,
Yeah.
Anyway, so this is a very vulnerable population. So we started advocating for that. Um, so with that, we started getting involved in a lot of policy. So one of the policies that we've been working on for the past year was called inclusionary zoning, which is in Philadelphia. Actually, I had to do the research for it. Philadelphia actually has a model that we kind of based ours off of, which means when developers come in and they build high, meaning building dense, these luxury apartments, they have to set aside a percentage for affordable rates. So we pretty much had this, like, it's been in Legistar, meaning it's been in legislature for the past year, and hallelujah, like they finally passed that shit yesterday. Like,
Oh wow.
after yeah. So it was a big victory for us. Also, like, we got rent control. We strengthened the rent control ordinance, which landlords can't raise your rent above whatever the consumer price index is, which hasn't been above 2% for like the past 5 years. So landlords can't raise your rent more than 2% every year. So that's like $5 a year basically, whatever your rent is. So we have those in play, but like we're looking for more ways to actually keep Newark affordable and actually where displacement doesn't happen, meaning people having to move from their homes to move to either other cities or other parts of the city that they're not accustomed to. And Newark, the development boom here is ridiculous. I mean, like, we have, they just passed a zoning law yesterday as well, which is probably, something. It's probably a one-for-one trade-off where they put the affordability into it, but they actually made a new zoning law where people could build as high as 20 stories in one section. So development is on the rise. So that's how housing justice comes into play. And I love this city. Like, I love this city. Like, I've tried to leave so many times, but I always come back. But anybody that grew up in a city that they can be proud of, like, knows how I feel. Like,
Yeah.
Like, you're from Philly, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So people from Philly or people from New York, like, you guys have just as much pride, but probably more. Well, on the outside, pride in your city like you do. Like, if you're from, people from Newark, we're very proud to say we're from Newark. I mean, it's been a shit show for so long. Like, if you survive, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you survive here, it's kind of like, it's like, hell yeah, you want to tell people like, I survived Newark. You know what I mean? Especially the 80s and 90s when this shit, like, the whole fucking city was just crazy as fuck.
Yeah. Yeah. There's
But yeah,
something
I mean,
about...
right now it's
Oh no,
go ahead.
good. I was just gonna. There's something about being from places that are like horrible that you somehow living there you somehow find pride in. You know what I mean?
No, yeah. 'Cause, I mean, it's a test of your own, resiliency in a way. You know what I mean? It's like I always look at it like this. Like, I grew up where my friends from the suburbs would come. Like, you know what I'm saying? If we were going to the city or something like that, and they'd stop in Newark first, and they'd be like, yo, where the fuck are we? You know? So it's like, but I was used to it. And I don't know, man. It's like you said, there's most of us that come from cities like this, which is very proud to say that we're from here.
Yeah.
It's a shit. It's a shame that there's people out there that actually want to move here because of that, But at the same time, they're changing the culture. Like, I go to Brooklyn now, and you see people on unicycles and shit like that, and they just want to move there because they want to say they live in Brooklyn. You know what I mean? And it's like, mommy and daddy are paying the fucking rent, and they're just fucking doing their thing. But that's a whole different story. So I don't want to go there. But that's yeah.
I'm glad I came up doing stand up in Philly because it's like, like, if you suck, someone's just gonna tell you flat out you suck type of shit. It's like, I'm glad.
Yeah, that's amazing. Man. How long you been doing stand up for?
Like 4 or 5 years.
Oh shit! Next time I'm in Philly, let me know, bro. I'll go out.
Definitely. I'd like to come out there sometime too.
Yeah, maybe.
Like, making all these connects. I'm like, I gotta start hitting people up. But
I got you. Well, let me know, because actually I know a lot of comedians in the area. Like, that's another thing that's on the rise. I don't know if it's nationwide too, but comedy is like off the hook right now. Like, I've seen It reminds me of hip hop in like the '90s, where it's like everybody you knew was a rapper. It's like everybody I know now is a fucking comedian and shit. I'm like, holy shit, wow, fucking crazy. But yeah, man, this is good shit. But yeah, man, like I love the city. I love the city. I love everything it stands for. The politics suck, but what city doesn't have sucky politics? You know what I mean? So. Yeah.
And then just was wondering if you're working on any art things, any exhibits, anything like that.
Yeah, actually, curating my first show October 15th, I believe it is. Yeah, so that's like actually next week. What you call it? It's actually based on gentrification. So it's called Who's the Renaissance For? And that's going to be part of like Newark's annual arts festival called Open Doors. So it's going to be at the Lips Gallery, located in the Gateway Center, which is pretty much like the Gateway Center is like this huge, I guess, corporate complex downtown, but that has an art gallery inside of it. So that's kind of a big deal. On the 14th, I'm actually doing an hour and a half workshop, actually teaching folks how to engage the community through public art. Because actually, I help facilitate a public arts program in Ironbound where we like make murals and like beautify the neighborhood. So,
wow.
Yeah. So this is like a citywide like institute type thing, I guess you could say. So it's like panel discussions. So like I'm doing the workshop, so I'll be teaching, folks how to talk to people in order to get what they want in their community when it comes to art. Other than that, I mean, I'm always doing like, work on the side. Like always doing art, like album covers for people, or just, doodling, or just working on. I collaborate a lot with like a lot of people that do like accessory designs, like bags and hats and shit like that. So I'm always doing patterns for them, like pattern work, like textile work for them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and like right now, especially what's going on with Puerto Rico, I'm doing a lot of artwork for like different fundraisers. So doing auctions and stuff like that to get money up for folks in Puerto Rico. So shout out to all the Boricuas out there. We're going through a lot. I know Philly got mad Puerto Ricans now too.
Yeah.
I was reading up on that. You guys they're bypassing New York and Newark now and actually going straight to Philly. So that's crazy. Actually, I guess that's the first stop before Newark and New York. But yeah, I heard you guys again, like them by the drove. So, but now they're going through a lot right now. Like, I mean, all of us that grew up in the city on the East Coast know what it's like to grow up with Puerto Rocks. They're wonderful people, mad energy, good people. So we're all trying to stick together and like galvanize around, our brothers and sisters who are going through all that shit right now. So those are opportunities to actually, be a human. You know what I mean? And put your ego aside and actually like do something for somebody else besides ourselves. Also, me and my man Eggs from Bully Mouth, we're actually working on something with photography with the Film Bruja. She's a film photographer from Newark. So we're working on like a new project where we actually, instead of, making music, we're actually taking musicians out to like disgusting places to eat and we're just stuffing ourselves and taking disgusting photos at the same time. So actually the next one we're doing is in November, and actually Mr. Len's gonna be a part of that. So he's gonna be our first official guest on this eating tour. So we're gonna be doing that.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah, so I'm always working on something creative. Like there's so many different outlets. I mean, yeah, so there's always something to do, put it that way.
And where can people find all this and stuff? Like, I don't know if you want to plug like a Twitter or like Instagram or anything.
I don't have Facebook, thank God, but you go on Twitter, it's Daniel Joseph, spelled correctly. Instagram is Dano Joseph, I think, Danno Joseph. Let me see what else. I mean, there's links to there. I have a podcast called Suicide by Paint Gun where I just played like all the demos I find on my Gmail. So I got shit from GDP, Pistol, all the people like listening to stuff that they sent me, like demos that nobody's ever heard that I just play randomly. So those links are in my all of my social media stuff.
Mm.
You can find. I mean, I always throw flyers up and shit like that. So that's all good. They usually find stuff. But I don't know, man. Like, yeah, and there's always. I was trying to think what else you can find stuff at. I don't know. Google me, you know what I mean? Yeah, yo, remember that shit? Google me, son. Nah, but yeah, you can do it like that too. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll throw that all in the notes section. And you still got a
Mhm.
Bandcamp, I believe.
Oh yeah, I was like, damn, wow, I forgot all about that shit. Yeah. We're at DanielJoseph.bandcamp. That is still up there. I think you can find. Oh, damn, that's right, my Gone Fishing mixtape, which actually surpassed, I think, like 30,000 downloads like in the past year. So that's pretty cool.
Mm.
That's still up there. That is one of my favorite projects I ever did. Other than that, I don't know. Now that I know that, like, you know, people are gonna be looking out for stuff, I'll throw random links out there for shit. So that should be cool. But
And
yeah, man.
yeah, is there anything else you'd like to say, close on or anything?
Oh man. Yo, anybody that's listening, yo, bro, do it for humanity. You know what I'm saying, put your
Mm.
ego aside. The world is changing for the better, hopefully. But just keep open mind. That's all. So that's about it. And love. That's the only thing I'm gonna leave everybody with. Don't be afraid to love. That's it. Word.
Word. Well, thank you very much for doing this, man.
Hey, no problem, man. This is actually good. This is like a good therapy session. I feel this. So. Yeah.